What's up guys, Jeff from Sorta Healthy here. Today we'll be talking all about me. Well, not really. We'll basically only be talking about how much money I made in 2021. For those who don't know, I run a private, fairly high-end personal training studio where I train clients full-time myself, and I also employ other trainers who train clients as well. The revenue generated from this studio is by far the largest portion of my income. That being said, I also have a few other sources of income, such as a rental property, and of course this YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be breaking down how much money I made from all of these things, plain and simple. If you guys appreciate all the transparent and personal information that I'm sharing in today's video, all I ask is that you consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Both of these two things really do help the channel to grow, and this channel is a free resource for all health and fitness professionals, and your support is always really appreciated. So before we start breaking down how much money I made, let's briefly talk about why I'm making this video and why you should care about it. One, not enough people accurately report their income, especially in the fitness field. Personal trainers are notorious for telling you how successful they are or how they got to 7 figures in 6 months or something like that. 99.9% of people that talk that way are full of shit. They don't make 7 figures or whatever they're claiming. They're trying to get you to buy a product, and if you think they're rich, you're more likely to buy said product. I won't be selling you anything, and even though I am fairly successful, I don't make 7 figures, unfortunately. This brings me to my second reason for making this video, and that is to give you a good and realistic goal. Everything I have done is achievable through hard and consistent work. Hopefully I can inspire some of you to follow your dreams and maybe even to attempt something similar to what I did. Oh yeah, and here's a bonus reason. You guys don't diversify your income enough. Having your income come from only one source, yeah, it's not a great move. This is even more true if your source of income is something that can fluctuate a fair amount, like personal training. But anyways, let's stop beating around the bush and start talking cold, hard cash. And we'll start off with my smallest source of income, which is this YouTube channel. Here's a clip from about a year ago when I broke down my 2020 income. Anyway, no time for delay. Let's get into breaking down my income for 2020, and we'll start with everyone's favorite YouTube channel, Sorta Healthy. All right, let's see it. How much money did Sorta Healthy make in 2020? Must have made a few $100, maybe $1,000. Oh, $6.21. Yep, in 2020, I only made $6.21 on YouTube. That was kind of sad, but what are you gonna do? All you can do is dust yourself off, get back on that horse, and keep on keeping on, or something like that. Luckily, 2021 was far more kind to me when it comes to YouTube revenue. This channel started to make about $500 a month when I actually started to try to make some money on it. To be honest, I could have made more too. I only enable ads to be shown in the beginning and at the ends of my videos. Most YouTubers enable mid-roll ads or ads in the middle of their videos. This generates them more money, but it can make the viewing experience less enjoyable. So who knows, maybe if I had enabled those ads, I could have made a fair amount more. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not doing this whole YouTube thing for the money. When I broke down how much I make by creating these videos, it ended up being like $5 to $10 an hour, which unfortunately, financially speaking, that is not a great move. I could make more money doing basically anything else. That being said, I like to make videos, and that's definitely a big part of why I do it. Also, there is a real lack of quality educational content out there for personal trainers, and I feel like this channel helps to fill that void, even if it's only in a small way. So before we move any further along, I just want to thank all of you. You've all been super supportive, and that's motivated me to keep pushing forward on this YouTube journey. I certainly wouldn't have come this far without all of your support, so thanks again. Anyways, my total income for 2021 on YouTube was about $4,750 if we include affiliate links as well. It likely would have been around $6,000 for the year, but I didn't monetize certain things on my channel until March of 2021. Next up, we're talking about rental income. I've talked about this a ton in other videos, but we have to talk about it here too to get the full picture. Basically, about 4.5 years ago, I bought a duplex or a multifamily home. I bought this house pretty much purely as a business investment. There were nicer houses in town that cost less and had less problems, but this house had a few things that made it very unique. It had and still has 2 good-sized driveways and parking areas, 2 main entrances, 2 full living areas, and a bunch of other things going for it that make it a good business property. For about a year after buying the property, I used the smaller side of the house as a private, single-room personal training studio. I lived and and still live in the other side. My current wife, then girlfriend, and I would both train clients in this space part-time alongside our main jobs. My house studio was a great little side hustle for both of us. After some time training clients in the home studio, like I said, it was a little bit less than a year, we rented out a bigger studio space in town and started to train our clients there. We had too many clients to train in a single room studio, and this new space would allow us to train multiple clients at once. Over the next year, we both quit our full-time jobs and focused solely on our now decent-sized studio, Commence Fitness. The cool thing, in addition to all the other cool stuff I just mentioned, was that moving our training business to a commercial space in town freed up the other side of my house. I've been renting out that side of my house since then, and it's been a great secondary source of income. And this is what I meant earlier when I was talking about multiple sources of income. Even if my training schedule is a little bit lighter for a few weeks, I don't really have to stress about things. This is great because those lighter weeks do happen sometimes as clients travel, get sick, whatever. You guys know how that can go. As far as supplementary sources of income are concerned, one option is just to have another job. That one is obvious. You could even do some in-home personal training alongside a more stable position in a gym or a different fitness facility. I did that for years before I owned a house and a studio of my own. In fact, had I never done in-home training alongside another training job, I would have never had enough money to buy a house in the first place. So it really was this side job that opened up a ton of doors for me later on. Another strategy for making some extra income would be house hacking. I'm always amazed that more people don't take advantage of this one. Essentially, you buy a house, which is no easy task, especially in today's market, but it is still doable, and then you rent out rooms in that house to friends or family members. I've done this since owning my house in various different ways. When I first bought my house, I was renting out much more of it than I am now. I was sharing pretty much everything I owned because I knew having that rental income would allow me to accomplish much more later on. There are many other sources of supplementary income out there, but hopefully, at the very least, I gave you a few ideas. In 2021, I made $13,200 from renting out a part of my house. It's the same thing that I made in 2020. I'm probably too nice of a landlord, and I don't have any plans of raising rent anytime soon, so that number is likely to stay put. Okay, so on to the biggest part of my income, and that's my pay from my personal training studio, Commence Fitness. So we'll have to divide this pay into a few different categories. Obviously, we'll talk about my pay, or how much money I made from training clients directly. We'll also have to talk about how much money my wife made as a trainer. Technically, she makes the most money in my studio. Then we'll also talk about how much revenue was generated by other trainers within my facility. Of course, we'll leave their identities anonymous. Let's start with the other trainers who work in my facility first. On average, these two trainers account for approximately 30 sessions a week. This, unfortunately, is still a very small number relative to how many sessions my studio does in total. Last year, I said that I wanted a larger percentage of my pay to come from other trainers working alongside me. In fact, it was one of, if not my biggest goal for 2021. Although I was fairly successful in this, I was less successful than I hoped to be. In my facility, trainers other than myself and Alexis only made $4,500 in 2020. In 2021, other trainers in my facility generated over $65,000. Even though I wanted this increase to be greater, this is still solid progress for a year. We'll say that Commence Fitness gets to keep $16,750. Most of it goes to the trainers themselves, then a lot of it goes to taxes and other stuff. I only get to add half of that to my salary because I only own half of Commence Fitness. Alexis owns the other half. By the way, unlike YouTube and rental income, the numbers that I have here for training income are not exact. I have an accountant that I work with, and he figures a lot of that stuff out for me. Or I should say that we figured out together. The point is that I haven't done that for 2021 yet. That being said, the numbers that I share here should still give a pretty good idea of my income for 2021, and that's really what counts. Up next, we'll talk about Alexis's pay. She's done about 55 sessions a week for the past 50 weeks. Before taxes and overhead and everything like that, that means she made over $120,000 doing training sessions. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, when you run your own business, your overhead is higher than you'd think. She may walk away with $90-ish thousand if she's lucky due to overhead expenses. So anyway, my training income, if we're just looking at how much money I made roughly without taking out any of the overhead, well, it's about $101,250. This is probably a low estimate since I'm calculating it using my lowest training rate for 45 hours. But anyways, if we add $101,250 to the $13,200 that I got from the rental property, then we could add in the $8,375 I'll receive from employing other trainers, and then we add in the $4,750 that I got from YouTube, and this means that in total, before taxes or expenses, I made about $127,000 in 2021. Just like with Alexis's salary, you would have to chop at least $30,000 off that number to get how much I actually made. This is because of two things primarily, and I'll do my best to briefly briefly explain both without boring you to tears. The first reason our pay isn't quite as impressive as it seems is because of overhead. Just to name a few of our biggest expenses, we have rent, which costs us about $1,000 a month. We have utilities, which cost about $400 a month. Since we're self-employed, we both have to pay about $400 a month for health insurance as well, making our total health insurance bill close to $800 a month. And then we have other random expenses, which were pricier this year than most at about $500 a month. There are definitely other expenses that I'm not remembering here, but hey, that's why I hire an accountant to help me out. The other reason why our pay isn't quite as impressive as it seems is because of how you're taxed when you're self-employed. The tax rate for Social Security and Medicare as a self-employed person is 15.3%. When you're employed by someone else, you only have to fork over 7.65% of your pay towards Medicare and Social Security. When you're an employee, half of that expense is covered by your employer. Unfortunately, you don't get so lucky being self-employed. So in recap, after everything, when you run your own business, this pay of just over $127,000 really ends up looking more like this, roughly $90,000 if you're lucky. That all being said, I did make a fair amount more money in 2021 than I did in 2020. My business got considerably busier in 2021, and 2022 is looking like it's going to be similar in terms of growth. My main goals for 2022 are to hire more employees and grow my studio a bit more. I want to continue to grow this YouTube channel here, and I also want to start up a second YouTube channel at some point where I'll be talking about other business and lifestyle things that I'm passionate about. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all of that. If you guys have any questions or comments on anything that we discussed today, please leave those down below. Hopefully you guys got something out of me sharing my income with all of you. I plan on making this a yearly thing if you guys enjoy this stuff, so let me know. And if you haven't already, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as both of those things do help the channel to grow, which does allow me to create more free content for all of you. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, stay sort of healthy.